Aloha kako and welcome to Miss Happy Mess. This is not a mistake. We are in a different format. As you can tell, we are not in the studio. I'm actually at my home and we are doing a Zoom episode. So, yeah, this is Miss Happy Mess going rogue on Zoom. I'm Kimberly Rose Volter, your host. And today, this is so exciting. We are on Zoom because we are talking actually to producer Jill's very, very good friend. I'm talking to Dr. Sam Akbar. She is an Oxford classicist. Did I say that right?
You did perfectly.
She studies the classics. That's what it means. That's what I learned. And she's a clinical psychologist and she's based in London, which is why we're doing the Zoom. And oh my gosh, she just wrote a book. It's the coolest book. It's called The Odyssey Mindset: 7 Timeless Lessons on Strength, Resilience, and the Power of Purpose. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in or flying in, or I guess it's not flying in, zooming in.
Zooming in. I
Yeah.
would love to be there in person, of
Oh my God.
course.
I'd love to have you in person. But you know what? We're technologically savvy, and so here we
Yes,
are doing a Zoom together. Okay, so you're good friends with producer Jill. Um,
I am. Producer Jill is one of my favorite people in the world.
Yay, mine too, mine too. And she was telling me that you had written this book that was kind of in response to the Odyssey, the feature film coming out by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
And tell me about how you pitched this book to come out as kind of like a companion piece to the movie.
Well, I was originally writing a book on trauma because that's my clinical psychology expertise, is working with refugees with post-traumatic stress disorder to rape or torture or war. And so I was beavering away doing my proposal, and my agent was like, "This is so good. Let's send it off." I was like, "Yeah, let's send it off." It's sort of March 2025. And in couple of weeks later, she's like, "Yeah, everyone's got a trauma book." I was like, "Well, information I could have had earlier." And I just thought, you know what? Keep moving. Don't feel sorry for yourself, right? That's done. It's still useful. It'll always be useful. Like, you've done a good pitch, but that's not your thing now. And for a long time, I had wanted to weave psychology and the classics together so that I could become what I like to term a psycho-classicist. And
I like
and I
that.
I couldn't quite find the hook. You definitely need a hook for a book in
Mhm.
this, in the publishing world. And I couldn't quite get it. And I was just sitting at my desk, and I always have lots of post-it notes on my desk to kind of, ideas. And there's so many I can't really kind of keep track of them. So in about April last year, I was just sitting there thinking, well, what am I going to do? Let me go back to my classics book. And I had a note on my desk that said life lessons from Homer. The Odyssey film is coming out July 2026. I was like, that's it. How can I have forgotten that is coming out? The reason I have forgotten is obviously I'm a menopausal woman. So what I write down one week, I will not remember the next. You
Yeah,
would have
it's
thought
like
that would have been at the forefront of my mind, but no.
it's like who wrote this post-it? It
I was
seems
like,
like
who
maybe
is
my
this?
writing.
Who is this genius? It isn't me. I can't get out of the house without my clothes being on back to front a lot of the time. Anyway, and so I was like, that's it. That's what I should be doing. So I quickly wrote to my agent. I said, look, the Odyssey is going to enter the public consciousness
Mm,
with a film by Christopher Nolan. He's just won the Oscar for Oppenheimer. It is going to be amazing.
yeah.
And Homer core will be everywhere. And this is a perfect time to write a book that's like a self-help book, a psychology book based on the Odyssey, because actually its strength, the great strength of the Odyssey is that it understands people.
Mm.
And I said, I am quite uniquely placed to write this. I don't know how many other kind of psychology classics nerds are roaming the earth, right? But there can't be that many of us. And so very quickly it was acquired. and is now in 18 or 19 languages
That's amazing. And on Audible.
and on Audible.
Because as a dyslexic girl, I love me an Audible. I love to listen to it
Fantastic.
and read the book at the same time. Like I will do both because then I can really start taking it in. And I love that
Fantastic.
you're the narrator of it.
With my croaky voice.
No, I love it. I love it. It's a great listen. It's a great listen. And of course, I had the manuscript, so I was going along with it. I was able to highlight and things. Well,
Great.
why, when did you first discover the Odyssey? I mean, obviously it's like 3,000 years old.
I
And
mean, I'm not that old, Kim.
yeah,
I'm not,
no,
but
I
I'm
never
not
said
that
you
old.
were. You'd be post menopause then.
Yeah, yeah, I've been going on a long time since the Bronze Age.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean it's an old poem, right? And
Yeah,
I feel like we all know the Odyssey, whether we've read the poem or we haven't read
sure.
the poem. We're all familiar with it. We all know Odysseus, and we have some idea of what the journey is. We just know it didn't go well. But when did you discover it? And yeah.
So I really remember it. The first thing I remember really about it is that, like you say, it's always in the kind of consciousness of
Mm,
storytelling and myth, and everyone knows these stories. But I really remember it because there was a series on when I was about 11 of famous British actor called Tony Robinson, just reading this story as a piece to camera.
mm.
Nothing fancy. He was just standing by the scene. He read it as a piece to camera. And I would race home to watch it. Kids, this is when we didn't have anything fancy. We just had people talking to the camera. And it was,
We haven't gone too far
we
as
haven't
I'm
got to,
talking
but
to you in the camera.
it was such, he did it in such a compelling way.
Mm,
And I was probably just at the right age, about 11. And I really loved it in a way that I hadn't been that into Greek myth or anything before. It never captured me in quite the same way. I was sort of much more into science fiction.
mm,
But the fact that he was telling it orally, which is exactly how the poem is meant to be consumed, right? We read it now,
mm.
but it would have been sung by a bard, right? And
Right.
in a kind of poetic and rhythmic way to maybe something like a lyre. And it was just so captivating. And I think what I was thinking, why do you care? And what you like is Odysseus gets into all these scrapes.
Hmm.
And you're like, how is he going to get out of it now? I just can't guess how he's going to get out of it now. And I noticed that in like films or books that kind of capture me. I'm like, how is the protagonist going to navigate this? How are they going to get out of it? What's going to happen?
Hmm.
And that's, I think, the kind of crux of what interested me. And in a way, if you think about it, it reflects in our own lives all the time. How am I going to navigate the situation now, especially for your listeners or me at the age I am, the kinds of things we're going through in life?
Hmm.
How am I going to navigate this now? And so it's got this sort of lovely mirror to lots of different stages in our life, which asks the questions, how do I get through this?
Yeah. It 100% mirrors so much of our life. And when I started the book, I didn't realize how much of the questions that I have in my life are reflected in this book. And honestly, the first season of this podcast has been about a lot of the questions that I've been having. And, we talk about, um, kind of being alone and not being with a partner and seeing life and being happy as a solo person. Like, do you need somebody to be happy? We talk about like, when do you stay in a relationship and when do you go? We've talked about DBT and CBT. We've talked about when your body knows that something's wrong before your mind does. And those are literally the episodes that we've had in this first season. And it's amazing because in all of the sort of the pillars that you discuss these things. Like you discuss when the body knows what's going on before the mind. And you literally have a part that's about CBT and behavioral therapy. And I mean, I just felt like you and your book and discussing these pillars and how Odysseus got through it and then how we can get through it was sort of the perfect way to wrap up this first season of the show because it is encompassing everything we've sort of just talked about for this season. Um, so I wanted to kind of get into the book and some of the ideas that you talk about in the book because I want to use them, and I'm never ever had the chance to actually ask an author who has exercises in her book. Could you please explain that exercise and how do I do that?
Sure.
So okay, so you have all these pillars, right? And it says like there are different lessons on strength, as the title says. But it's interesting because you go from like the front of the poem and you even tell us which book it is and the line that you're quoting and stuff, and then you really go through. It's incredibly practical in the way that it relates to us. But you talk about comfort zone, this comfort zone, especially when Odysseus gets to the island and he's sort of with this goddess for 7 years, and she's offering him everything in terms of hedonistic kind of desires. Do you know what I mean? She
Exactly. Yeah.
adores him and she's sexually attracted to him and she wants to keep him there. Um, and though it's comfortable for him, he knows it's not who he truly is. And I also love that you point out that he says, like, even though my wife is shorter and not as attractive, I really need to get back to her.
Yes, I was very happy about that. Good news for short wives everywhere, like me.
Yes, exactly. Um, and I wanted to talk about that comfort zone. Do you know what I mean? How a comfort zone can not be where you want to live or not be your authentic self. A comfort zone, would you say, is that synonymous with being familiar in a familiar situation rather than a healthy one?
Yeah, so you can. It's a bit like, you would say it's like a frog being boiled alive. You're sort of in a situation and you're just getting used to it. One of the great things about human beings, one of our great strengths, but also possible weaknesses, is that we can adapt to anything,
That's true.
right? So we can adapt to the good and we can adapt to the bad.
Hmm.
And I think it's very hard. You can be in difficult situations. So you could be in a job that's toxic for you or not good for you, or relationships, whether they're romantic or friendships. You can be in so many different things
Hmm.
where it's kind of not not bad enough to leave, but not good enough to stay. And so you're
Mm.
constantly kind of stuck in this. And then there's the reality of like life. You get up, you go to work, you do your thing, you're just in the rhythm and routine of life, especially when there are children involved, that it's very hard to upend that.
Yeah.
You have to feel very displeased to upend that.
Yes.
And so actually he's there at the beginning, and Homer says, so the story is he's washed up on this island and the goddess Calypso is there, and she keeps him there for 7 years. And at the beginning he was willing to be there. What a surprise.
Yeah.
What
You
a
know.
surprise. If this was a god, maybe I would be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Of course I would. He's willing to be there with her, but then he realizes that this isn't him. This isn't who he is in his essence. He wants to go back to his home, to Ithaca. He wants to go back to his family. He wants to go back to his ordinary life as a
Hmm.
king of a small island on the kind of outskirts of Greece. Like that is who he is. And he is Calypso's offering him this amazing deal, which is if you stay here she's got this beautiful cave. So
Mm.
she's got an amazing property, desirable location,
Hmm.
um, a perfect life. And she's saying, if you stay here with me, I will make you immortal and ageless. You will just be like you are forever. And of course, what that does is, appealing though it might seem, it takes away from Odysseus the very essence of what he is, and that is human, right?
Mm.
He's a man who revels in being human, right? In screwing it up and finding a way out. He thrives in the friction, right?
Right.
He
Right.
doesn't want to go to Troy, but when he gets there, he thrives. He's the one who brings the war to an end with the Trojan horse ruse. So she's offering him something that is an anathema to him. He wants to be a human being, and because he knows that those things don't last. That's why he wants them. And similarly, I think for us, the kind of modern day equivalent of that is being in something where it looks appealing. We've got the house or the status or the car or the job or the kids who are really perfect, and but actually there's some, quite often people describe feeling like something is missing,
Yeah.
something is off, something is not right. And usually that's because you're not in touch with your authentic self. And that's not an easy thing to do or find out.
Yeah.
But there's something that doesn't speak right to you.
Hmm.
Something of yourself has been lost along the way in the search for what society deems a successful life, which is
Yeah.
essentially stuff and
Yeah.
relationships.
How can you how can you discern whether you're not in your actual authentic self and something's missing versus like being sort of antsy? Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes when we're in long relationships, it ebbs and flows. Nothing's perfect. And like you say, even in
Mhm.
the book and stuff with other situations, there's times where you need to fight for the person that you want to be with,
Sure.
and it's not just about being with them when when everybody's healthy and great, but you got to fight for those moments that are complicated. So how can you kind of figure out what the comfort zone is when you need to sort of fight it out, or if you're actually in a place where it's not feeding who your core person is?
I think that it's about patterns as opposed to one moment of we had a terrible row or something awful's happened, or, like that's the stuff of life, right? But what is the overall pattern? And
Mm,
I'd almost log it and journal it or go to, obviously I would say this to some extent, but therapy helps you think it through
yeah.
in a considered way. But I think you have to put the effort into not judging sort of hour to hour, but you
Mhm,
have to think about what's happening over a pattern of time. Like,
mhm.
how often do I feel that this is okay, more than okay? I mean, you have to be careful, don't you? Because you can't ask everything from one person. That's
Right.
another kind of nonsense of,
Yeah.
um, and sometimes things don't work out, and there are all sorts of reasons that can happen. But, I think it's about whether you can see a pattern of being kind of dissatisfied or unhappy over a long period of time where you feel you're curtailing or squashing part of yourself to kind of
Squashing yourself to
yeah,
kind of breathe and stay
to just to stay moving under the radar,
yeah,
just to sort of stay. And that can be in the workplace, couldn't it? It could be in a friendship, it could be in
right.
a family group, it could be in a romantic relationship.
Mhm,
Like, are you sort of constantly kind of going, "Oh, shall I say that? No, maybe not. Keep the peace." Like that's
mhm.
probably a fairly good clue.
That's great. So if you're kind of almost censoring yourself or smushing
Yeah.
yourself down or just not showing up as yourself over a long period of time.
Yeah, not over once or twice, but does it feel like it over a long period of time? Then
Yeah,
that's a different story.
yeah. And I love that you talk about, you can't demand everything from one person, because I think that kind of plays into when you talk about finding your crew, choosing your crew.
Totally.
Yeah. And so I would just love to talk more about choosing your crew. And I know we talk about it, or we don't talk about, but I listen to you writing about Odysseus. And of course, his crew never makes it back alive with him.
Yeah,
But
don't get on a ship with anyone
yes,
called Odysseus.
yeah.
He
And
says, "I'll give you a lift home. Don't go.
you're like, I'm going to wait.
I'm gonna wait, thanks. I'll get an
But
Uber."
I'll get an Uber, exactly. But it's like, he has his crew, and his crew is one found family.
Yep.
Um, but he also, has a number of other found families. And I wanted to talk to you about choosing your crew, because for me, my friends have been the most important thing. I mean, aside from my daughters,
Mm.
that have the longevity and the the life journey that maybe I haven't found yet in a partner who's been a whole life journey, but my friends have. So I just kind of wanted to speak to you about that. If you could just tell me more about the crew.
Yeah. So I guess one of the things that really is so much at the core, I think, of the Odyssey, but also of, human existence,
Mhm.
big discussion for a Saturday afternoon,
Exactly.
um, but is connection with other people. I mean, we are evolved to be connected to other
Mhm.
people. And I he Odysseus has his crew. None of them make it home. It's not great.
Not great.
But he also meets other people along the way who help him. And that idea that, we need those other people around us. So how do some of them will be fortuitous people come into our lives? I
Right.
mean, how many of us or your listeners will think about, kind of people who've come into their lives totally by chance who've become really important relationships? I
Mhm.
think it's this idea that when you have friends you're like 8, you're like, right, am I done now with making friends? Like, do I just have those friends? And of course, school perpetuates this, the kind of high school cliques and everything. Like, and actually, the reality of friendships and connections is they're fluid, and that's fine. And
Yes.
as we know, as you get older, what you discover, which really somebody should tell us earlier, of course, is that you will move to different seasons of your life. And your
Mhm.
friends may or may not be part of that. That doesn't mean you stop being friends.
That's right.
It means that you will reconnect on your journey later. That's okay. It doesn't mean you see each other all the time. So, my high school friends, I don't see them all the time, but when I see them, it's like no time has passed.
Right.
And of course, I think that idea as well about being able to have people who, I'm lucky enough to come from a family where we're very close and they are absolutely part of my chosen crew, but you may not be lucky to experience that.
Right.
Many people come from very, very unhealthy and abusive families,
Mhm.
and so they can't rely on that. So they choose their families,
Mhm.
they choose their community, and actually, those people put a lot more thought into who is good for them and who they can be good to.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and so I really liked this idea that you can choose your crew. And that crew, will may change. It's not going to be the same all through your life, but you can choose those people who come into your life. And I really think that is such an important part of the overarching theme of the Odyssey. Is it's about human connection,
Yeah.
whether it's with your people you went to Troy with, whether it's your crew, whether it's your wife and son you've left behind, or your relationship with the gods. Like, it's all about connection. It is not the story of a man journeying alone, despite it
Mhm.
being called the Odyssey.
Right.
It's actually, Odysseus and friends.
Yeah, and like you said, he could not have survived without the different communities, the different people who helped him along the way. He wouldn't have survived on his own if it was a
No.
solo quest, right?
And maybe none of us really we would all struggle. I mean, loneliness is a modern epidemic.
Yes, and also it's I believe our crew that we turn to when we're in trouble to kind of help us through or talk things out or mm, show us skills that we don't have to get through some kind of, choppy waters if we're staying
Yeah.
with Odyssey kind of boat reference. And without human connection, we're kind of alone. And yeah.
And especially, like, for your audience, somebody said to me the other day, it's really hard. Obviously, life is hard for a lot of women. I mean, we're lucky in terms of privilege and choice, but for a lot of women around the world, life is dangerous and awful, right? But she said, what you still get as a woman that is priceless is the gift of female friendship.
Mm.
And actually, that is priceless. I'm not sure you could convince me for anything else to give up the gift of female friendship.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, you can make me cry.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I agree. I think female friendship is one of the most powerful things in the world.
Yeah, I really, and I think it's interesting how you really get to see that as you get older, because what you do, or maybe, naturally, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, is of course, when we're younger, we prioritize romantic connection.
Hmm.
And that's important because we have our children, we have our husbands or our partners, and they're wonderful and a great part of our life. And I wouldn't be without those things. But there is something in the beauty of female friendship. Like when I think, when you're on the floor, who peels you up? Sometimes
Yeah,
it's your partner, but often
a lot of
it's,
times it's your friend.
producer Jill has peeled me off the floor
Yes,
a lot over the last 30 years.
same, same. I love that. And then this kind of leads to, so we're talking about female friendship, but then another kind of a dynamic that I really loved was you were talking about how Homer allows people to cry. And Odysseus cries a lot, you know? I wouldn't say a lot in a judgmental way, like he's inappropriately crying. He's going through huge transitions and letdowns, and he's homesick. His crying is 100% appropriate, but he's not holding it in. And I feel like in this modern time, I love when you talk about crying because I want to say, yeah, because a lot of men don't cry, but I have to be honest, like I get teary and stuff and I immediately try to shut it down. Like crying for me is not something that feels socially acceptable. Do you know what I mean? And even when
Yeah,
we cry, like we always, oh, you're ugly crying, as if crying is ugly. There's not like a place for it. I don't think that's
yeah,
beautiful or accepting. It's almost like, oh, you're being too much. If you could just bring that down a notch. Um,
yeah.
so I wanted to talk about crying in the time, you know?
Well, certainly the first time we come across Odysseus in the poem after 5 books, so Homer purposefully waits to reveal him to us, and we've heard a lot about him. He is the great hero of Troy.
Hmm.
Well, maybe after Achilles. He is the one who brought the war to the end. He is, one of the most famous of the Greek heroes.
He does the Trojan horse, like you
He
said.
does
Like
the Trojan
he's
horse. He's
brilliant.
clever. He's a great warrior. And so we might expect to see him in that role. And what do? We find him sitting alone on a beach, staring out to the sea, crying,
Mhm.
wishing he could go home. I mean, it's got teenage girl all over it, hasn't it? I mean, and it's not what we expect. And so men cry all the time in Homer. I mean, there's some funny scenes where there's a couple of scenes earlier in the book where one of the heroes is crying, and I think somebody else says to him, well, that's enough of that now, let's have dinner. But generally, crying isn't a sign of weakness or womanliness.
Mhm.
This is something that's come along much, much later. Yep,
Mm.
in kind of the time of Homer, this is not thought of as odd that people cried. If you read the Iliad, which is another of Homer's poems about the end of the Trojan War, Achilles just cries all the time, right?
Oh,
There's just
really?
a lot of male crying going on. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of grieving going on, eating their hearts out with grief. It's not unusual. I think this is a much more modern phenomenon that we don't cry. And so again, Homer is teaching us something about that emotional intelligence. Now, listen, we don't want to look. I might be a therapist, but I don't want people to go around crying all the time. I mean, that's preposterous, right? But sometimes we need to cry, and actually, there is a great physiological relief in crying. If you've ever had a good cry, you often feel better afterwards, right?
And tired. And I'm
And
guessing it's
tired,
let it out
and
loud.
it's regulating. Like we do things with our bodies for evolutionary reasons.
Oh,
And so there's an evolutionary reason to crying. It's kind of helping you process something. It's numbing the pain a little bit.
it
I
is?
don't like crying because I don't like crying with glasses on. That's my thing.
Wait, crying is numbing the pain a little bit?
Yeah, it's not numbing it, but it's sort of it releases hormones that make you feel a bit better.
Really?
Yeah, that's a good reason you should cry if you want to cry. There's
Okay. But
crying all the time, and there's crying as a kind of release.
right, right. I mean, I know when I'm just off topic, but when my dad passed away, I was really young and I didn't cry for so long.
Oh, same.
Yeah. And
My
I,
mum also, yeah.
yeah, and I just did not cry and I did not cry. And it was almost like I was afraid of crying because it was a recognition that he was really gone or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Or the fear that you won't stop, right? And
Yeah.
actually, one of the most useful things that I kind of re- have learned, I guess, in my time as being a psychologist is, of course, I know this sounds ridiculous thing to say because it's so manifestly true, is that feelings ebb and flow.
Mm,
Nothing lasts forever. You just have to hold tight, right?
yeah.
It will come and it will go. And no feeling is forever. I think Rilke has a really beautiful line about that. You just have to hold steady. And the
Mm,
question I ask myself is, what do I need to hold steady as this feeling passes through me?
mm,
And so sometimes it's crying and a teddy bear, and sometimes it's speaking to a friend, and sometimes it's like feeling really happy. What do I want from this moment as well? But it's it's really it's about noticing that those feelings will come and go. Good and bad feelings ebb and flow, and that's okay. So you won't always feel this way. This is a moment, and maybe in half an hour, I'm still going to feel sad, but I'm not going to feel like as bad.
yeah. I think that's a really good reminder. I mean, as you say, like, I don't think it sounds silly because, on one hand, yes, of course, things pass. But when you're in the emotion, it can feel so overwhelming. Like, we are never leaving this. And now we just are stuck in this particular emotion. And that feels scary that you just want to be like, let's be done with the emotion. Let's just move through
Yeah.
it because I just don't want to even sit here anymore. It's too
And
uncomfortable.
sometimes that's fine. Like if you are in a meeting, this is not the time to sit with your like sometimes you have to shut it
Sure.
down,
Right.
right? That's the reality. But there's something there that's going on. And
Hmm.
if it's kind of bubbling up a lot in you, then sometimes you do need to let
Hmm.
it kind of come out. Maybe that I know it sounds again, and maybe it sounds silly, but kind of provoking the crying
Mm,
cannot is often not a bad thing.
right. Because then you're maybe choosing the time where it's appropriate, right? You're not sitting in the middle of a meeting.
Yeah.
And you're in a
I
safe
mean,
place.
like if you really want to send yourself over the edge, watch ET. I mean, who can ever recover from ET?
No, I
I
can't watch
can't watch that again.
no.
I saw it in the cinema with it when I was 6, and I remember actually now you say this to me, I was crying, so I put the hood of my jacket up so no one would see me cry. Even then, I would have thought that.
Oh my gosh, but it's so interesting though that we have Achilles and we have Odysseus, and these are the big strapping gods and
Yeah,
demigods of their period, and they are crying,
yeah.
and that's okay.
It's not an odd thing. It's become a much later construct of kind of masculinity that you don't cry.
That's interesting. Well, and so kind of going through the emotions, and going through the poem, another bit that really stuck out to me was how it's helpful to not just say a feeling, I'm angry or I'm sad or whatever, but to specifically name it so that you can then be more constructive of how you get through it instead of sort of almost being a victim to it. Am I articulating that right?
Yeah. So one of the things that's very useful when you're feeling overwhelmed is to say, is to be kind of a bit more granular.
Hmm.
So, like, I instead of I'm really sad, can you go a bit deeper than that? That, I'm frustrated or I'm lonely or whatever, like the thing is that's slightly underneath the sadness. If you
Hmm.
can name it, and again, then I would say, and so what do I need as this feeling moves through me to
Hmm.
kind of to navigate it?
Yeah. And again, that's right out of the poem. I mean, I forget which book it's from, but it's interesting if Odysseus can name his feelings so that he can overcome what he needs and go look for the appropriate thing that would make it better. I mean,
Yeah. It's just being able to, rather than kind of you're rising above the maelstrom of your feelings,
mhm.
right? You're sort of pulling yourself out of it. You're giving yourself a bit of distance. By naming it, you're stepping it away from it a little bit and being able to look at it. Then you can think, well, what do I need to do about this?
I mean, it really is incredible because we had an episode with a DBT specialist, a therapist, Mary Tabone, and with my daughter Mana, and we talked about communication, and she literally said, like, if you can name your feelings, it helps you uh, step into them in a way that you're now recognizing them and you're not controlling you.
Yeah. You're an observer of them.
Yeah,
You become an observer of feelings, not just somebody who experiences them.
yeah, yeah. I love that idea. I feel like it's so practical. And I mean, you have different exercises in the book as you're going through so that it feels like, oh, I can actually achieve something with this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did you kind of even come up with these exercises? I know
I
there's a
guess,
bunch of different ones, but
yeah. So, of course, the only person who's done them assiduously is producer Jill. I knew she would as well. Like no one else does them, but she will always. Jill is the person who always has her homework done on time. She's so hardworking. I will wait till the last minute. What can I get away with? So I think they are sort of just adaptations or bastardizations of other exercises that I've used in clinical practice.
Okay.
Um, just things that I've kind of, some of them I've made up. They're a mixture of other things, but just ways that I thought would make it kind of straightforward for people to do them if they wanted to. Because lots of people read these books and they don't do the exercise. I still think you can get a lot from these things because there's a lot of to be had in reflection.
Yeah.
I think if you want real behavior change, then you have to do something different. That's and those exercises help you. My experience of people in kind of self-help books, and I would include myself in this, is there's one step about reading it, but then if you really are serious about changing, you make another step, which is in the doing of, so I'm going to do this practice, this, and I think very very few people do that. It's a
Hmm.
bit like going to the gym. It's like, you know, it's a commitment. You've got
Yeah.
to do it. But with all these things, if you commit and do them, you do see the change. I mean, that's ultimately what CBT is. Of course, we can talk about the cognitive element of CBT, which is understanding your thoughts or your relationship to your thoughts or challenging your thoughts and your kind of what goes on in your head. That's all fine. But if you're wanting to change behavior, then you have to go out into the world and do it.
And do the behavior and change
And
it.
do the have behavior and do it and learn from it and generalize it into other bits of your life, right? So it's a bit like if you had a phobia of heights, you and I could talk a lot about that cognitively and why maybe there isn't a danger there and it's curtailing your life. But unless I kind of, pushed you to go and be near the edge of a building or whatever, then it wouldn't make any difference. It's an intellectual exercise.
Right, right. So you got to
You've got
physically
to do
take
the
it out
thing.
into the world. Yeah. There was one exercise that stood out to me. It was talking about multi-selves and our
Yes.
identity and kind of going, and it really resonated with me because, you give examples of how Odysseus is in different roles throughout his journey. But then for me, this modern lady, I wake up and I'm a mother, and then I go and I'm a teacher, and then I need to deal with bills, and then I'm in
Yeah.
meetings, and I'm a writer, and then I'm all of these different things at on the same day, and sometimes within seconds of each other. And it can get overwhelming. And but you were talking about how it's normal and it's natural to kind of have these multi-selves. Um,
Yeah.
but if you kind of feel lost in them or overwhelmed by them, there was an exercise that I liked because it had this boat that you draw, you draw
Yeah. Yeah.
from, and then you can put all the different sort of naming of who you are throughout the day. And
Yeah,
I wanted you to speak to us a little bit about that particular exercise because I feel like a lot of our listeners are constantly going through multiple selves throughout the day and transitioning
yeah,
very quickly. And that can be exhausting by the end of the day. And you're sort of wondering, who am I? Like, which one of these is me?
yeah.
You know?
It again, it's sort of kind of things we could have all learnt about when we were younger might have made our lives a bit easier. But especially at this age, maybe a lot of your listeners will be parents, partners, children to aging parents, having a lot of, at the time in their 40s and 50s, having a lot of responsibility at work, maybe,
Mm.
or going back into the workplace after hiatus. There can be so many different roles that you're trying to fulfill. And those, it's quite normal to have those different roles. And so, I've drawn on the work of Richard Schwartz, who talks about kind of internal family systems and how you can think about these different parts of yourselves. And actually, it's not about finding consistency because you can't. Like there are
Mhm.
lots of different parts to yourself, which is also your richness. So there might be a part of you that's a joker or a people pleaser, etc., etc. We've all got different parts of ourselves, but can we identify and kind of keep in mind the overarching part of ourselves
Mm.
that is the kind of compassionate part, the part that's in touch with our values, that holds, like holds all those other parts together. They can hang from that. So looking for coherence rather than a consistency.
Right. And is that kind of attached to our morals, our character? Like, how do we kind of discover that thing that the rest of it hangs off of?
I think the best way for that is to think about kind of what your values are.
Okay.
Like what kind of person do you want to be? What do you want to stand for in the world? Um, how do you want to treat yourself? How do you want to treat other people? Um, like how can you be kind to yourself in those moments? What are the times when you feel most alive,
Mm.
most in tune with yourself? And they actually may not, they're not necessarily happy moments, right?
Mhm.
They might be a moment you might feel really alive, might be caring for an elderly parent or having a beautiful moment with them that is
Mhm.
full of kind of pathos, happiness, and pain, but you feel alive. You feel, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is important to me. You probably wouldn't describe it as fun,
Right. Yeah.
right? But it would fit, it would sit right with you.
Mhm.
Yeah, what sits right with you. And there may be moments, of course, where you're with your friends and it's great fun and you're dancing or you're being silly. Some of the times I feel most in tune with myself is when I'm being silly with producer Jill. Actually, that is when I
Yeah.
feel very, very much like that. But equally, I also feel like that when maybe I'm helping my dad do something.
Yeah.
Like I had to take him to go and get a new computer and a washing machine, a 3 hour, 4 hour expedition. I wouldn't call it fun, but I was really glad I was there because how would he have done that on his own? He's in his 80s. I was there to help him navigate that and take something from him when he's given so much to me. Like I wouldn't say it was the most fun I've ever had in my life, but
But you valued it.
it sat really well with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you find the overarching part of you.
Yeah. That's really helpful, actually. I think that's really helpful because in this world where people are constantly talking about authenticity, it's like, well, it's not obvious how you find your authenticity. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of assumed that we all know it, but I don't sometimes know what my authenticity means. I don't know what that
Well,
means to me.
well, one of the exercises I really like, which is actually in my other book, is imagining your own funeral, and one person gets up to speak from your family, one friend, and someone from your working life.
Oh,
And
interesting.
what do you want them to say? And
Mm.
what you no one ever says is she had an amazing car and a brilliant kitchen extension with lovely marble worktops. Like no one ever says that. It will really tell you what's important to you.
Mm,
What do you
I
want
love
your
that.
children to say about you?
Yes, I love that. I love that.
And that's a very powerful way of being in touch with what's important quite quickly.
That's a great exercise. So you write at your funeral what one person from your family, one person from your job, and one friend, and maybe like a child.
And maybe, and just what do you want them to say about you?
Yeah,
What do you want them to get up and say?
yeah,
Like, that you were that you had lots of stuff, or that, she was there when I really needed her. And that's what I'm going to miss. Like, she stood by me in really difficult times, or she fought really hard for me,
yeah,
or, you know, I would want my daughter to say I always had time to give her a hug. I was never
yeah,
too busy for a hug.
yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Although what she's going to say is all I do is shout about the mess that is her bedroom. But hey, and like, is she studying? Is she working hard enough?
And
So
that's
at the
perspective.
end of it all, I'm still an Asian parent.
I love it. I love it.
I love you. Here's a hug. Now, how is your extra homework going?
Exactly. How is your essay going? Um,
Yes.
I feel like this kind of exercise sort of naturally leads us into an epitaph because I really loved when you're
Oh,
talking about
epithets. Epithets. Yes.
epithet. So talk to me about that because I even wrote it down because I loved it so much. You say naming your story, what part of your story really matters? Because I'm not just surviving, I'm enduring in a particular way, and that way is mine to name.
Yeah.
And you kind of walk us through how we can create our own. And I kind of wanted to know what yours was. I kind of wanted to know,
Okay.
like, just since we have you, like, how do you come up with these? Do you know what I mean?
So epithets, maybe I should just explain for your
Yeah,
audience.
explain it.
Epithets are something that are very particular to Homeric poetry. And so it's like Odysseus has many descriptors of him. An epithet is a descriptor. So he is most famously kind of what they call him is kind of complicated,
Mhm,
or he's much enduring, or he's wily. So there are these little words that you get that just tell you something about him.
mhm.
Achilles is always swift-footed. um, Agamemnon is king of men. His brother Menelaus is lord of the war cry. Right, so you just have these epithets that describe you. Now, the reason that you get them is they if you think about Homer being a bard who sings, it's and you singing in a certain meter, it's very helpful if you've got little stock phrases that you can
Mm,
slot in. So you always know you can have Achilles is the son of Peleus, or he's swift-footed. Yep.
okay,
So you can just you can kind of use them and not have to remember them, right?
got it.
But I really like the idea of what would your epithet be, to think about yourself. Like, it could be that you are ever loyal, or, or, brave, or, much enduring after her divorce, or
Right.
whatever, like, you've kind of got a little phrase about yourself, and it's playful, but it's so Homeric. It's like just a key Homeric thing. It's a playful way of asking a reader to think a little bit about how would they describe themselves, like a
Yeah.
core thing about themselves. You can have more than one, of course.
I love it. I just think it's a fun thing, and it's all like you were saying, it's almost like a quick breakdown or like
Yeah,
yeah, just an easy way to remember people. Do you know what I mean? And I love that. I
yeah.
thought it was so fun. Do you have one for yourself? Would you mind
Do you
telling us
know
what
what?
yours is?
I Mine would be ever ready to nap. That's the truth. But if I don't, that's funny actually. I'd always had plate jokey ones for myself, but I'm not sure what I would give myself. I think kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to do.
It is, I mean, because it's hard to do for yourself. Like when you're saying it about like Achilles, I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
swift-footed, got it, Achilles heel, blah blah blah. But I was kind of thinking last night, like, oh well, what would I make for myself? And then I was kind of thinking, oh, what would Sam say for herself? It seems harder, right, when you're doing it for yourself.
I think I'd say something about I'm quite loyal.
Okay.
I think there would be loyalty and perseverance, I think.
Okay. I like those. Loyal and
Yeah. What would yours be?
I think, well, one that I thought was maybe like, she's ready to try it. Like I think I'm somebody
Okay.
who's like, if you tell me this is a true story, you want to jump out of a plane for your birthday and I'm breastfeeding, I'm like, yes, I'll be there.
Okay. So ever open-minded.
Yeah, I'm kind of like down to try it once.
Okay.
If I don't like it, I won't do it again.
But that's kind of it's sort of nice to be able to think of yourself in that way.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice. I mean, I was trying to find, like you said, I was trying to think out what other people would have said about me, because all of a sudden, when I was talking about me, it's interesting that I sort of go between being like, I don't know, negative things, but then also, I don't know, I don't want to be braggy or something like that. It was just, it was interesting to kind of look at myself in a way that didn't have to do with being critical. It was just like, who are you in a very raw way.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I highly recommend listeners trying this. Like, it's just fun to be in the car and think about them. And then, like you said, you can have lots of different ones. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so I like that as well. Um, yeah, I think another one of mine would be like she was always hosting the party. Like
Yes.
seemed to be always the one who's down to host the party.
So it tells you something that you're quite sociable, you're quite open to being there for your friends, trying new things. Like it tells you something important about what's important to you.
Yeah. And it's true. Actually, my friends are incredibly important to me, and I do want to show up for people and for my friends. And yeah, and I like to think I'm open because I like to try new things. So the world excites me. Like, honestly, the world excites me. I am not scared of the world. I love it, and I wish I could see more of it. If I had all the money in the world, I would just travel all
Oh
over
my God, you're like Odysseus.
Yeah, but hopefully I would get home.
You would get home. Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I feel like I am like Odysseus. It's interesting too because there was I just talk about one other thing and then I know we have to go, but like oh, and I'm gonna say them wrong. The
The
Phoenicians?
Phaeacians.
Phaeacians. You discuss the Phaeacians at a certain point in the book, and I love this idea of a visitor who comes and they're not they're not afraid of the visitor, they're not afraid of the foreigner, and in fact there's like um customs and culture to saying you're from somewhere else and we would like to welcome you in and we would like to feed you and make sure that you're okay, and only then will we ask who you are and what's going on. And then there's also these other rules of the visitor to be like, they're feeding me, they're taking me in, so of course I'm going to respect their space as well. And there was something about that that really reminded me of Hawaiian culture, because there is
Okay.
something very strong about, when people come and you just offer them like so many things. You're like, "Do you like this? Oh, you can have it. Can we feed you?" Like we want to welcome you in, There is a natural custom, I think, in Hawaiian values to be welcoming and to open your home and your heart to people who are coming and traveling. Do you know what I mean? Um, and it just resonated with me in this new way because since I've lived on the mainland, that's definitely not the values here. And it almost seems like people are a little bit more skeptical and like, oh, I don't know, you're not from here. And so you need to prove yourself to me before we can actually have a conversation so I can make sure you're not dangerous. And it was interesting in the journey how there was the different communities that sort of welcomed him in these different kinds of ways. And
Yeah.
I don't even have a question, but it was just interesting to me because I've never really thought about that.
It's such a key thing in that kind of ancient Greek, archaic Greek culture, this idea of xenia, which means
Mhm.
guest friendship. And if you are traveling around ancient Greece at that time, you are reliant on strangers to feed you and bathe you because there's no Holiday Inn situation going on. So it's a kind of web that, or kind of a web that keeps society together, right? That you go and you know you can stay somewhere, and then equally when people come to you, they can stay with you. And it's something that holds the community together. And the idea is you turn up, people don't ask you lots of questions immediately about yourself. They give you a bath, they give you some food, and then they say, stranger, where are you from? And you don't abuse that hospitality. And when they leave, they give you guest gifts, right? You
Mm.
go
Yeah.
off with gifts. So instead of you bringing a bottle of wine round, you get gifts from your host. And it's such a kind of important idea in the modern world because we are absolutely at the peak of strangers are difficult, dangerous, a threat to our culture, to our society. There's a lot of othering going on.
Mm.
Um, and this is another way of thinking about it. I'm not proposing that you pull someone off the street and give them a bath and feed them their dinner. I'm saying it's a more metaphorical thing about, are all strangers dangers to us?
Yeah.
Or have our societies always been built on people from outside? This preposterous idea that somehow everyone is an outsider at some point.
Yeah.
And it's the same narrative that happens again and again. Of course, I see it in my work with refugees all the time.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, this is a poem that speaks to refugees a lot. There's a class, I think, a classicist does in California. And I think I read something he was talking about teaching it to Syrian refugees. Of course, this would resonate.
Mhm.
It's about being lost, trying to find home, and relying on the kindness of strangers. Like when I wash up on the shore, and how many modern day Odysseus's are crossing the Mediterranean now and taking their lives into their hands. When I wash up on the shore, will someone help me or will they hurt me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the idea that, of course, so many people leave where they leave because to stay is much worse than getting into a flimsy boat and taking your chances of drowning with your family.
Yeah. I mean, and those are desperate situations if that's your choice.
If
And
that's your choice, it's not like you wake up one day and go, I know, where can I go and steal some kind of government support from?
exactly. Well, and this idea of invasion that just
Yeah,
because the person is new to a land means they're going to invade. Um, and yes, a history of colonization definitely lays out this idea of invading.
yeah,
However, it's interesting now that in a colonized society, the people who are now refugees are almost looked at as if they had the power to colonize, which is 100% not true. So
yeah,
it's um it's a
yeah.
twisted
It's a
view.
timely reminder of
Yes.
how we can look at the Odyssey with modern eyes, but see very relevant things.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a kind of love for humanity that I really appreciate in it.
Yeah,
And I thought, yeah, I just, it really just struck me on a deeper level in terms of just wanting to see people for who they are instead of categories or societal,
yeah.
bookmarks or whatever.
Look, this is why the Odyssey has survived 3,000 years and we're still talking about it now, and why Christopher Nolan can make a film that everyone is desperate to see is
Mhm.
not because it's a story of just monsters and great adventures. It's a
Yeah,
story that is so much about humanity and how we live and what's important and how we treat each other that are the same things we are talking about now. And I
yeah,
think Homer he has a lot of questions. There are no easy answers, but he has some guidance for us.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a perfect place to end this call because it truly is an amazing book. It's a fascinating read for the literature, but it's also an enlightening read for your personal life, my personal life. I highly recommend it to all the listeners out there. Thank you so much for being with us today, Sam. And I just want to remind everybody, Sam's book is called The Odyssey Mindset, and it's available now in hardback. And you can also listen to it on Audible. For all my dyslexic friends out there, you can buy the book and listen at the same time. I love to do all my reading like that. And thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm excited to see the Christopher Nolan movie now. I mean, like I said, I was kind of excited about seeing it, but now that I've read the book, I feel even more excited about seeing the movie. Um, I don't know. I feel like I have some new knowledge. I'm now a classicist.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Kim, for having me. I'm really
Thank
glad
you.
you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did. All right, that's the end of the episode, everybody, but it is just the beginning of the conversation. Please give us your insights. I feel like there was so much good information on this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the book, on the exercises, and if any of these kind of topics resonated for you. So until next time, embrace the chaos, but please remember to breathe. All right, a hui ho. Bye.
This episode was produced by Jill Dickerson and Kimberly Rose Kaiulani Wolter. Technical producer Daniel Asmalash. Social media manager Benjamin Pola. Music by Mary J. Madden. Promotional consideration provided by the Park Shore Waikiki Hotel. We want to thank our friends and family who continue to support us. Mahalo for listening. A hui ho! Still I climb back.